Hi. So we're seeing a lot of companies trying auto-generated assets with AI Max. And these assets are not performing well. But it doesn't always appear that's the fault of the AI. It's because advertisers are not using, or they're kind of creating poorly, messaging restrictions. So with messaging restrictions, you can give information about your brand tone. You can give guidelines to Google about how your ads are written. So this will help the AI create ads that work for you. Now, if you want to completely exclude words, that's what term exclusions are for. But you only get 25. So if you don't want all discounts or all promotions, you don't have enough characters to use it. So this is really where messaging restrictions comes into play. Now, with messaging restrictions, there's a few things to know. One, you have 300 characters. So you can be pretty verbose in how these are written. Two, you want a single idea per restriction. If you say, don't use discounts or prices or reviews in our ads, that's too much. You're going to confuse the system. One idea. Adding examples can also help. Now, when we're thinking about using AI Max, there's no preview. You can't go to Google and say, hey, I want a preview of my assets. So therefore, we need to make a simulation of what ads will look like, get some good ads and some bad ads, so that we can see how to write restrictions. So to do this, we're going to turn to Gemini since it's owned by Google, it's similar technology. And then we have a favorite RSA prompt we use, which you just include your keywords, your landing page in this prompt, and you get like 50 great assets to look at. So then we're going to take this prompt and put it into Gemini. And then we'll look at the assets and say, do we like all these? Right? If not, why? Then we can create some initial restrictions based upon what we don't like in it. In most cases, these assets are going to be great, but these aren't everything Google's going to use. So what we really want to do is kind of like trick the system and force it to write bad ads so that we can see why we don't like it and create good restrictions. So then we'll take our same prompt, say, here's my keyword, here's my landing page, here's the prompt, and I want clickbait titles, or I want you to really showcase our authority, or I want you to use heavily promotional language. Now, you're going to get some really aggressive ads from this, which is great because now we can look at examples, number one, so we can use them when we create our restrictions. But two, we're going to get all these ideas of things we don't like. Then we can look at, okay, why don't we like it? What's that classification? Now let's write a messaging guideline for that information. And we'll repeat this several times. And so that way we now have a list of our messaging restrictions. Then, right, we can go back to Gemini and we can say, okay, here's again my prompt. Here are my messaging restrictions for how you should write my ads, but still make them clickbait titles or still make them heavily promotional. Now, if you've written these guidelines correctly, right, it will try to take your information, it will try to make heavily promotional titles or clickbait titles or whatnot within your restrictions. So you should still see ads and assets that are acceptable even though you're trying to force it to write bad ads. And so that's what we really want to do with these guidelines is say, if it was trying to be really aggressive, do my guidelines keep it in play so that I still like what the outcome is? And then when you're happy with this, right, take these guidelines and put them into your AI Max campaign. Now, you're still going to want to examine the assets Google's creating. Not all of them fit your brand name. Some will be very poor examples of what you're doing. AI Max, it's getting better with writing ads. It's fantastic for call-outs and site links. In fact, some people turn it on just to write call-outs and site links, and then they review those and they get rid of all the assets, right? You can do it that way too. But if you're going to use the AI Max ability to auto-create assets, you need good guidelines. And so doing a little bit of research using just Gemini and some prompts will help you write good guidelines that will make your AI Max results much better if you're going to use auto-created text assets.